In this segment, we're going to cover tattoo coverage. Years ago, when I first started in makeup, we'd spend more time making tattoos. Now it seems everybody has one, and we spend more time trying to hide them. So again, we're going to our trusty flesh tone palette. We're going to begin by using a red tone to neutralize the black. And then we're going to camouflage it with, again, 2 or 3 varying flesh tones to knock it down. And then we're going to add a layer of grease paint because the paint will just reduce it to a shadow. You cannot remove it entirely with the paint. If you try, you will create too thick a skin. And as soon as the actor starts to move their arm, it'll wrinkle and crinkle. And then when we're done, then we seal it, the grease paint, with another layer of paint. Some people will use an airbrush, but you can use a sponge and a flick brush like I'm about to.
Burnt orange might work.
I like mixing the prime red and the blood red. If you find the brush is taking too long, then you can even jump into the sponge. This is a dimpled sponge. What I did was tear pieces out of the surface to make it irregular, and we often use foundations and grease paints and whatnot to color to get more of a spackled, uneven palette, especially when you're mixing colors. So I'm going to use this. So yeah, you want to hope that production doesn't get a tattoo like this. That's something big that you know you're going to be a while covering. The point of the red is to knock down the blacks. As you can see, it dulls them. And then I'll start adding some flesh tone. As you can see, when you start incorporating the flesh tones, how the black is getting pushed away. Now this same technique can be used to hide, let's say you have one of those strawberry birthmarks or some discoloration, and you needed to, if it's a really dark disfigurement, you can use the same thing to break it down. And then use normal makeup on top to get rid of it. So as you can see, it's slowly disappearing. Again, we can't go too thick with this paint. We're just doing a light covering to reduce the tattoo to a series of shadows. And we're going to go over it with an HD foundation. That's high definition makeup. And then we'll seal it with some more of the alcohol paint. Okay. So now I'm going to go over the alcohol-based foundation with some high-definition foundation. This would be, they come in these handy palettes. Jourdain actually makes this particular brand, but any Dermablend, any kind of camouflage makeup would do. And we're going to use a sponge and continue camouflaging the tattoo. So you notice I dab the color, I don't. I will use a number of shades because your color isn't made up of one tone. Now, if it's a raised tattoo, there's not a whole lot you can do about the scarification. All this will do is get rid of the color. A little color back into this, looking a little pale. And remember, we're also going to go over it and seal it with one more coat of the alcohol-based paint. Okay, it's starting to look like something. I'll go back to the alcohol paint again. You can see the more color you put on, the more all the little flecks start to join in and become more one tone. Our tattoo is pretty much vanished, other than you can see the odd spot where there's some scarring. Like I said, there's not a whole lot we can do with that. Now that would be up to the camera department to light her arm in such a way that that wouldn't read. Just have to be careful doing this, because at a certain point you will get to the where you actually start pulling color off instead of putting it down. Luckily this is on the inside of her arm, which would be a little lighter than the outside. We'll have to come up with a more golden tan to match the outside edge. You can go over it with a little more grease paint one last time. Trying to put some tan back into her. Gotta be careful. Okay, now I'm going to set the colors on Trina's arm with some loose no color powder, using a tissue and a powder puff. You want to press the powder into the makeup. You don't want to brush it. And it just helps set anything that was missed. As you see, it doesn't affect the color, and any extra globby bits I will brush off carefully after. Just gives the makeup more of a neutral matte look, like the rest of the surrounding skin. So there, that's set. Now, in an extreme situation where your new wardrobe may become a conflict and rub against this, you can add a layer of Pros-Aid No Tack. Like the other Pros-Aid adhesive, this has a more off yellow color. That's the one distinguishing feature of it. And it goes on opaque and dries clear. And the difference is that it's not sticky, or very little sticky. There's always a little bit of tack because it is an adhesive, and it will add a protective coat to the makeup again as another reinforcement of things coming in contact with the makeup. Now, if your model or actor is in a situation where you don't need it and they're just going to be walking around casually like this, and the arm is not in a danger of coming in contact with anything, then by all means you can stop at this point, but we're going to take it just one step farther. Now, like any adhesive, make sure you give this a good shake before you start, because sometimes some of the properties in this will separate. You just want to make sure the bottle's all uniformly toned throughout. And again, you can apply this dabbing with a sponge, and you just need a light coat. Being a water-based adhesive, it's not in conflict with the makeup on top, so you don't have to worry about it running colors or taking away from the makeup you've applied. Where the danger with some of the sealers, the plastic sealers, is that some of them have an alcohol base, and if you started spraying on it and got a little heavy-handed with the sealer, you run the risk of your colors running. So as you can see, minimal colors lift off. Now it has a protective layer, and we'll just let that dry for a second, and then we will again give it a light powdering, and any powder that would stick to this. Again, it's called No Tack, but there's always a slight adhesion. Water and a Kleenex will remove any of that ghosting. We'll give it one last light powdering again. Okay, now that little slight graying, I'll just go over that with a damp tissue. Because of the alcohol and the no tack prosate on it, the color does not lift off in any way, and the water repels. We're just using that to get any of the excess powder off. And there you have. You're good to go.